This is one of those movies that you definitely want to see in the theater. About 12 years ago, I remember Braveheart came out, and I don't know, something about the trailer just didn't turn me on, and I ended up watching it on DVD, and I pretty much ever since then, with Gladiator and even Troy, which I didn't even like very much, but just in case, it's a classic. You definitely want to go watch it in the theater. And one thing I can tell you about 300, you don't want to be that guy, you don't want to be that fan that's just like didn't get around to it and go, wow, I wish I'd have went and saw it. So one thing I can tell you right now, and I'm not going to do the longest review on a movie like this, because I think for the most part, people who want to see it, they're going to see it regardless of what I or any other critic is going to say, even though it's gotten rave reviews. I will go over some basics, but like I said, this is a movie that I'll just simply say, you don't want to be the person that didn't see it in the theater. So just want to get that clear. Definitely go out when you get a chance. Try to get in the big screen. Go to a good theater to see this one. This is a good movie. One thing I'll tell you, this definitely would have been a May release, but nobody's dumb enough to go against Spider-Man 3. So basically, I think what they did here was they really released this way early for a movie such as this, but with Spider-Man looming, locking up the month of May, this was a good time for this movie to be released this year. So normally I think this would have been an early May release, maybe even a late April. But anyways, if you get a chance, if you got the free time, go out and see this. You definitely want to be around the crowd. This is definitely a unique experience. You don't get these movie experiences that often. So like I said, I'll go into my review in a second, but I just wanted to emphasize, I made a mistake before, didn't see Braveheart, and then when it came out on DVD, I was like, wow, it would have been nice to have seen this in the movie theater. The director of this movie is Zack Snyder. He's basically filmed, directed 5 movies so far, with one upcoming called The Watchmen. It's in pre-production right now. Basically a very, in all tells, very inexperienced director. But I will say, just like Peter Jackson, no one really knew who he was. And then, Lord of the Rings comes along, and wow, all of a sudden this guy's a big player. So, I think you're hearing a lot more from Zack Snyder. He also was part of the writer and the screenplay of this movie. So, but like I said, normally I don't really bring up the directors too much, but Zack Snyder, being someone who really, like I said, has only completed 5 films, this is an unbelievable film for someone with his body of work. So he's definitely, I think, made a serious name for himself with this. But like I said, this is a guy who's definitely made his mark. With this type of movie, they went with someone like Gerard Butler. Back when Gladiator came out, sure, Russell Crowe wasn't a nobody. He did Romper Stomper and other films like that. He was around, but he wasn't really someone that people knew. Gerard Butler, for this role, was genius. He's someone you haven't seen. He's someone you haven't seen in 10 other movies. And so it's someone who, he's done like 30 films. But he's not someone, you're just going to recognize, for a while, Mel Gibson was doing, every single role. Once he did Braveheart, he started doing The Patriot, and he started doing, these other, movies. And so you kind of see that face over and over. And one of the beauties of this film is you really, not going to just put your finger on, any one actor. I remember him from this movie or remember from that movie. When you go with this movie, you're going to pretty much be immersed in new faces, people that are going to make their own role. It's just like when people have that R. Lee Ermey role in Full Metal Jacket. Certain roles make actors. They're just always tied to that role. So with this movie, what's nice is you basically have people making a real debut. And so it's real nice to see faces that are new and not rehashed, recycled, trying to use the same, A-list or ex-A-list actors in the movie. So the real beauty of this film really is the casting. Like I said, they all are pretty much new faces. I mean, they're not like the Mel Gibson types. They're not the Russell Crowe types now. I mean, so that's the one thing I love about this movie is every face is fairly unique. So that's really incredible job to cast a movie with kind of a broad cast and really not have to go to the well like they have so many times getting the same rehashed people for the same type of roles. So the casting for this movie really is pretty much about flawless. When it comes to the acting of the film, there are no weak points. Acting across the board, excellent. So as far as any actors, nothing stands out. It's like they say about officials or referees in a football game. There's a good game when you never knew someone was officiating it. This is definitely one of those ones where no one overplays, no one tries to get more screen time. It's really a balanced cast. No one's over the top. Excellent movie. Like I said, excellent acting, excellent directing. But like I said, as far as everything goes with the cast, with the acting, directing, it is all, at the top echelon of movies. As far as the execution goes, it's on par with everything else. I mean, it is a film that it just doesn't really have many weaknesses, if any. And it's one of those things. If you want to nitpick anything, you probably nitpick. I'm sure everyone knows. To a certain extent, this is based on a real story. So 400 BC or whatever. So it's something that actually was a story that did happen. This is something that obviously Frank Miller wrote about. But the execution is the only thing, like I said, a little bit of historical deals. And for me, to be totally honest with you, I don't really care about historic accuracy in a movie. If I want historic accuracy, I'll see a documentary or the shooting of 300 or whatever in some sort of bonus feature on the DVD or something that's going to be on a History Channel. That's when I go for history. When I go to a movie, I want to be entertained. I want a good story. And I don't want to go crazy with it and just totally make it into something that completely wasn't. But as far as being completely accurate, I don't really care. I just want it to be a good, solid story. Well, as far as my overall opinion, I think you pretty much heard me, go on from everything from the director, the casting, acting, the execution, the ending. Everything is pretty much on par with being one of the movies you get in your collection. If you buy DVDs or you buy whatever, you want to have a collection, I think this is one that most people are probably going to have in their collection somewhere, somehow, eventually. When it comes to overall rating this film, I give it a strong 4.5 stars. If you would like to submit a movie, email me at mrblacksmoviereviews@hotmail.com. Stop by each week to see videos on movie reviews, the box office top 10, DVD releases, the flop of the week, and I go over user reviews and comments. Subscribe to this channel, and you may be able to save time and money from seeing the wrong movie.